July 4th, 1974. Pacific Ocean, 1,560 nautical miles northwest of Hawaii. Surface conditions calm, water temperature 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Dale Nielsen, chief engineer aboard the Hughes Glomar Explorer, steadies himself against the massive ship's rail as hydraulic systems rumble beneath his feet. The vessel stretches 618 feet from bow to stern, its derrick tower rising 245 feet above the waterline. Nielsen watches Soviet naval vessels positioned 3 miles to starboard, their crews scanning the American ship through binoculars. He knows what they see: a mining vessel, eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes' latest venture into deep-sea mineral extraction. He knows what they don't see: the capture vehicle descending through 16,500 feet of black water toward a 2,000-ton nuclear submarine. Nielsen's hands shake as he reviews the hydraulic pressure readings. The numbers tell him something impossible is happening 3 miles below. The claw mechanism is closing around K-129, a Soviet Golf II-class ballistic missile submarine that's been sitting on the ocean floor for 6 years. The vessel contains nuclear torpedoes, cryptographic equipment, and 98 dead crew members. It also contains something the CIA desperately wants: Soviet naval codes and missile guidance systems that could shift the entire balance of Cold War power. What Nielsen didn't know was that the submarine's hull, weakened by 6 years of saltwater corrosion and crushing pressure, was already beginning to fracture. What he couldn't have imagined was that this moment represented the peak of American intelligence ambition, a $1.2 billion gamble that would partially succeed and completely transform how nations thought about covert operations. The mission, codenamed Project Azorian, would either validate the CIA's boldest plan or become the most expensive failure in espionage history. Within 72 hours, Nielsen's confidence in American engineering would give way to desperate improvisation as metal groaned, cables snapped, and 3 miles of ocean threatened to swallow both the submarine and the operation's secrets. The story begins 6 years earlier, when K-129 disappeared. March 8th, 1968. Soviet Pacific Fleet Headquarters receives final transmission from submarine K-129 at 0302 hours local time. Position: approximately 1,500 miles northwest of Hawaii. Mission status: routine deterrent patrol. Expected return: March 26. The submarine carries 3 SSN-5 Serb nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles, each with a range of 750 miles. Complement: 98 officers and crew under command of Captain First Rank Vladimir Kobzar, age 42. A veteran submariner with 16 years of service. Then silence. Soviet naval intelligence initially attributes the communications gap to equipment malfunction. K-129 operates diesel-electric propulsion, surfacing regularly to recharge batteries and transmit status reports. When March 26th passes without the submarine's return to Ryubichi Naval Base, the Pacific Fleet launches the largest search operation in Soviet naval history. 60 vessels, including destroyers, intelligence ships, and support craft, sweep a search area covering 96,000 square miles. Aircraft logged 4,200 flight hours scanning surface waters. The search continues for 73 days. They find nothing. What Soviets didn't know was that the United States Navy had been tracking K-129's final movements. The Sound Surveillance System, or SUSIS, a network of underwater hydrophones stretching across the Pacific Ocean floor, detected an anomalous acoustic event on March 8th at approximately 0840 Greenwich Mean Time. Navy acoustic analysts classified the signature as probable submarine hull collapse. The location: 40 degrees north latitude, 180 degrees longitude, directly beneath one of the deepest sections of the Pacific Ocean. Commander James Bradley, chief analyst at the Naval Facility Point Sur in California, reviews the acoustic data 3 times before filing his report. The signature shows explosive compression, sudden pressure release, and the cascading sounds of bulkheads failing in sequence. Bradley has analyzed 17 submarine disasters during his career. He knows the sound of death at depth. He also knows that if the Soviets lost a ballistic missile submarine in international waters, American intelligence would want to find it first. The search operation falls to USS Halibut, a diesel-electric submarine converted for special operations. Commander John McNish, age 38, receives classified orders in May 1968, locate and photograph the sunken Soviet submarine using deep ocean imaging systems. The mission parameters allow for unlimited time on station. The success criteria are unambiguous: find K-129 before Soviet forces locate the wreck. Halibut deploys in June with a crew of 120 and a specially designed underwater sled called the Fish. The device carries high-resolution cameras, powerful lighting arrays, and sonar systems capable of detecting metal objects on the ocean floor. The Fish operates at the end of a 16,000-foot steel cable, photographing the seabed in systematic search patterns. Progress is glacial. The search area covers 1,200 square miles. The Fish photographs 20 square miles per day. Lieutenant Commander David Sharp, the mission's imaging specialist, spends 4 months in Halibut's cramped photography lab, developing film in near-total darkness. He processes 22,000 images of empty ocean floor, volcanic rock formations, manganese nodule fields, occasional deep-sea creatures evolved for crushing pressure and permanent night. Then, on August 5th, frame 8437 shows something different. A shadow, elongated, man-made. Sharp calls McNish to the lab at 034, 0 hours. The commander studies the photograph for 3 minutes without speaking. The shadow's dimensions match a Gulf II class submarine, approximately 328 feet long, 30 feet wide. The vessel lies at a 15-degree angle, bow pointed north, hull partially buried in sediment. Secondary debris surrounds the main hull, suggesting catastrophic structural failure. McNish orders 4 additional passes. The Fish photographs K-129 from multiple angles, documenting the break in the hull just forward of the conning tower, the missing section of outer casing, the disturbed sediment pattern indicating the submarine struck the ocean floor at high velocity. The evidence points to sudden flooding, rapid descent, and hull collapse at approximately 1,200 feet depth, long before the submarine reached its final resting place 3 miles down. Halibut returns to Pearl Harbor on September 12, 1968, carrying 20,000 feet of film that will reshape American intelligence priorities for the next 6 years. CIA Director Richard Helms reviews the Halibut imagery in October 1968. Helms, age 55, veteran of OSS operations in World War II, understands that the photographs represent unprecedented opportunity. A Soviet ballistic missile submarine, intact enough to potentially yield cryptographic equipment, missile guidance systems, nuclear warhead designs, and naval communication codes, lies in international waters where Soviet salvage capabilities cannot reach it. Helms convenes a planning group, designated the Special Projects Staff. The directive is simple: determine if recovery is possible, and if so, design a mission to retrieve K-129 without Soviet knowledge. The group includes naval architects, deep ocean engineers, intelligence officers, and security specialists. They spend 9 months studying a problem no one has attempted before: how to lift a 2,000-ton object from 16,500 feet of water while maintaining absolute secrecy. The technical challenges are staggering. No ship exists capable of lifting that weight from that depth. No crane system can operate effectively at 3 miles of cable length. No capture mechanism has been designed to grip a cylindrical hull without crushing it. And the operation must occur in international waters where Soviet vessels routinely patrol, meaning any salvage attempt must have plausible civilian cover. Curtis Crook, chief engineer at Global Marine Development, presents the solution in June 1969. Crook, age 44, designed deep-water drilling platforms for petroleum exploration. His proposal combines heavy-lift ship design, deep ocean mining technology, and theatrical misdirection into a single audacious plan. Build a ship ostensibly designed to extract manganese nodules from the ocean floor, but actually engineered to lower a massive capture vehicle to the seabed, grip the submarine, lift it into a specially designed internal bay, and steam away before Soviet observers realize what happened. The cover story requires a public face. Global Marine approaches Howard Hughes, the reclusive billionaire known for eccentric business ventures and obsessive secrecy. Hughes agrees to lend his name and corporate structure to the project. His Summa Corporation will publicly announce plans to develop deep ocean mining technology, generating legitimate press coverage and providing perfect cover for building a specialized recovery vessel. The irony was that Hughes' reputation for bizarre projects made the cover story completely believable. When Summa Corporation announced in March 1970 that Hughes' Glomar Explorer would pioneer manganese nodule mining, industry analysts found nothing suspicious about a billionaire spending $200 million on speculative deep-sea extraction technology. What they didn't know was that the ship's actual cost was approaching $500 million, funded through CIA black budget accounts and routed through corporations with no obvious connection to intelligence operations. Sun Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Chester, Pennsylvania, receives the construction contract in September 1970. The specifications defy conventional ship design. The vessel must incorporate a 199-foot-long internal bay, called the moon pool, where the submarine will be stored after recovery. The bay requires a massive retractable bow door system and hydraulic pumps capable of dewatering millions of gallons once the submarine is secured inside. The ship needs dynamic positioning systems to maintain precise location despite ocean currents and surface winds. The derrick must lift 16,700 feet of 3-inch diameter steel pipe, lowering and raising the capture vehicle through a process that will take days. John Graham, lead naval architect on the project, later recalled, "We were designing a ship that had to be a crane, a mining vessel, a submarine tender, and a magic trick all at once. Every system had dual purpose. The drilling derrick was actually a lifting tower. The mining equipment was actually a submarine claw. Even the crew quarters had hidden sections for CIA officers and Navy technicians." Construction proceeds under intense security. Workers sign non-disclosure agreements backed by federal criminal penalties. The shipyard institutes badge access systems and armed security patrols. Curious journalists are told the ship represents cutting-edge mining technology funded by Howard Hughes' deep pockets and deeper eccentricities. Hughes' Glomar Explorer launches on November 4, 1972, displacing 50,500 tons fully loaded, measuring 618 feet in length with a beam of 115 feet. The ship's appearance matches its cover story. Industrial, functional, bristling with equipment that plausibly belongs on a mining vessel. Only the engineers who designed the internal systems know that the ship can maintain position to within 15 feet in sea conditions, up to sea state 5. That the hydraulic systems generate 12,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, and that every major system has triple redundancy. The capture vehicle, codenamed Clementine, is built simultaneously at Lockheed Missiles and Space Company in Redwood City, California. The device weighs 2,100 tons empty, measures 179 feet long and 38 feet wide, and resembles a massive steel claw. 8 curved arms, called tines, will close around the submarine's hull like fingers grasping a cylinder. The tines are designed to penetrate sediment and grip the submarine along its entire length, distributing lift forces across multiple stress points. Dale Nielsen joins the project in January 1973 as chief hydraulic engineer. Nielsen, age 36, previously worked on deep-sea drilling systems for offshore oil platforms. He spends 18 months supervising hydraulic testing, studying failure modes, and calculating lift dynamics. The mathematics are unforgiving. Lifting 2,000 tons through 3 miles of water requires precise cable tension management. Too little tension and the pipe sections will buckle. Too much tension and cables will snap. The hydraulic systems must compensate for ocean currents, ship motion, and the submarine's changing center of gravity as it rises through different pressure zones. Nielsen later recalled, "Everyone focused on whether we could lift the submarine. The harder question was whether we could hold it once we started lifting. You're raising a corroded hull that's been under crushing pressure for 6 years. Every foot it rises, the internal pressure differential increases. The hull could collapse, it could break apart, we could succeed perfectly until the last 1,000 feet and still lose everything." The mission requires absolute secrecy, but secrets require lies. The CIA creates an elaborate false narrative about manganese nodule mining, complete with technical papers, conference presentations, and business partnerships with legitimate mining companies. Summa Corporation publishes studies projecting annual profits of $80 million from nodule extraction. Trade journals run features about Hughes' vision for ocean resource development. The entire facade serves one purpose: explaining why a massive ship is slowly steaming toward a remote section of Pacific Ocean and spending weeks conducting operations at a single location. Soviet intelligence monitors the project from the beginning. KGB analysts track Hughes Glomar Explorer's construction, movement, and stated mission. They review the manganese nodule cover story and find it credible. The ship's specifications match its stated purpose. Howard Hughes' involvement makes sense given his history of expensive, unconventional ventures. When Glomar Explorer departs Long Beach, California on June 20, 1974, Soviet naval intelligence notes the departure and catalogs the vessel as a commercial mining operation. What Soviet intelligence didn't know was that CIA officers and Navy technicians occupied sealed compartments within the ship, monitoring communications and preparing for operations that would begin once the vessel reached K-129's coordinates. Hughes Glomar Explorer arrives at the target site on July 4, 1974. Captain Hank Van Kalkar, master of the vessel, positions the ship using satellite navigation and acoustic positioning beacons. The coordinates place Glomar Explorer directly above K-129's final resting place in international waters where no nation can legally interfere with commercial operations. Soviet vessels are present, maintaining stations between 3 and 5 miles distant, observing but not approaching. Dale Nielsen begins lowering the capture vehicle on July 7th. The process takes 3 days. The pipe string, consisting of 40-foot sections of high-strength steel pipe mechanically coupled together, descends at approximately 30 feet per minute. Each section must be precisely aligned and locked. The total length exceeds 3 miles. Nielsen monitors hydraulic pressure, cable tension, and pipe stress continuously. His engineering team works in rotating shifts, maintaining systems that cannot fail without catastrophic mission failure. At 16,500 feet depth, Clementine's sonar systems acquire the submarine. The capture vehicle descends the final 100 feet slowly, using thrusters to position itself precisely above K-129's hull. Underwater cameras transmit grainy black and white images to control rooms inside Glomar Explorer. CIA officers watch as the submarine's conning tower appears on monitors, tilted and corroded but structurally intact. The hull shows extensive damage forward of the tower, confirming the catastrophic flooding that killed the crew and sank the submarine. July 17, 1974, 0340 hours. Nielsen activates the tine closure sequence. 8 massive arms begin moving inward, powered by hydraulic cylinders generating thousands of pounds of force. The tines penetrate sediment, slide beneath the submarine's hull, and grip the pressure vessel along its full length. The process takes 6 hours. When complete, Clementine holds K-129 in a steel embrace. The lift begins on July 18th at 0600 hours. Nielsen increases hydraulic pressure gradually, taking up slack in the pipe string and beginning the slow ascent. The submarine rises at 10 feet per minute, a controlled movement that must continue for 1,650 minutes, more than 27 hours of uninterrupted lifting. The strain on every system is enormous. The pipe string bends and flexes with ocean currents. The ship's dynamic positioning systems fight to maintain exact location. Engineers monitor for metal fatigue, hydraulic leaks, and structural failure indicators. At 8,000 feet depth, sensors detect unusual stress patterns. The submarine's hull is deforming under unequal pressure distribution. 6 years of corrosion have weakened structural members throughout the pressure vessel. The lift continues, but Nielsen increases monitoring frequency. Every 100 feet of ascent brings new concerns. At 6,000 feet, a secondary acoustic sensor detects creaking sounds from the submarine's hull. The metal is bending. At 4,000 feet, the creaking becomes groaning. At 2,500 feet, something breaks. The submarine's forward section separates from the main hull. The break occurs at the damaged area forward of the conning tower, the same location where flooding initiated the original disaster. The forward section, containing the primary target items including missile guidance systems and the code room, falls away. Nielsen's instruments show sudden load reduction, approximately 400 tons vanishing in seconds. The remaining section of submarine, held by 6 of Clementine's 8 tines, continues rising. But the mission's primary objectives are sinking back toward the ocean floor, falling through 3 miles of darkness to positions where they will never be recovered. Nielsen stabilizes the lift at 2,000 feet depth. The decision matrix is simple: Continue raising what remains or abort the entire operation. CIA Mission Commander Dave Sharp, no relation to the halibut's imaging specialist, makes the call, continue the lift. Even partial recovery yields intelligence value. The remaining section contains 2 nuclear torpedoes, crew remains that can be analyzed for Soviet submarine training and operations procedures, and potentially some cryptographic materials. The lift resumes. The damaged submarine section rises slowly, cleared for final ascent into Glomar Explorer's moon pool. July 19th, 0245 hours. The capture vehicle breaks the surface inside the internal bay. Massive pumps activate, removing seawater and exposing the submarine section to air for the first time in 6 years. The pressure vessel is corroded, covered in marine growth, and clearly broken. But it represents tangible proof that the impossible mission succeeded partially. The irony was that despite losing the primary target, the operation still represented the most ambitious intelligence collection effort ever attempted. No nation had previously recovered a submarine from such depths. No covert operation had required such extensive engineering development or maintained such comprehensive secrecy while operating in plain view of adversary forces. CIA analysts spend 3 weeks aboard Glomar Explorer documenting and analyzing the recovered section. They find 6 bodies of Soviet sailors preserved by cold water and depth pressure. The bodies receive formal burial at sea according to Russian Orthodox traditions, filmed and documented for potential future release. The recovery also yields 2 Type 53 nuclear torpedoes, still functional and containing warheads that provide insight into Soviet nuclear weapon design. Cryptographic equipment is present but heavily corroded and partially destroyed by seawater infiltration. The mission's intelligence value remains classified, but subsequent CIA assessments suggest the recovered materials provided useful but not transformative information about Soviet submarine operations and nuclear weapons technology. The missile guidance systems and current naval codes, the primary mission objectives, were lost when the forward section broke free. Hughes Glomar Explorer departs the recovery site on August 9, 1974, carrying its partial prize and maintaining the mining vessel cover story. Soviet naval vessels observe the departure, noting nothing unusual in the ship's behavior or movement patterns. The operation appears to have succeeded in maintaining absolute secrecy. Then the press gets involved. Jack Anderson, investigative journalist for The Washington Post, begins researching the Glomar Explorer story in late 1974. Anderson's sources include CIA officers uncomfortable with the operation's legality and defense contractors whose employees questioned the project's true purpose. Anderson publishes his first story on February 7, 1975, exposing Project Azorian and revealing that the CIA attempted to steal a Soviet submarine from the ocean floor. The revelation triggers immediate Soviet response. Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko delivers a formal protest to the U.S. State Department, condemning the operation as theft of Soviet property and violation of international maritime law. Soviet naval forces conduct searches of the original site, attempting to locate the submarine's forward section. They find nothing usable at that depth. The Public Disclosure Forces, CIA Director William Colby, to address Project Azorian in congressional testimony. Colby confirms the operation's existence, but refuses to detail what was recovered, stating only that the mission yielded materials of intelligence interest. The exact contents of the recovered section remain classified. Colby also introduces a new phrase into American administrative language. When asked directly about classified aspects of the operation, Colby responds, "We can neither confirm nor deny the specific details." The phrase, later called the Glomar response, becomes standard government language for protecting classified information while acknowledging public knowledge of sensitive operations. The financial cost of Project Azorian is staggering even by Cold War standards. CIA internal documents eventually disclosed estimate total costs at $1.2 billion in 1974 dollars, equivalent to approximately $7.2 billion in current value. The breakdown includes $500 million for Hughes Glomar Explorer's construction, $200 million for the capture vehicle, $150 million for mission support and security operations, and $350 million for program management, engineering development, and operational costs. The price represents one of the most expensive intelligence operations in American history. Dale Nielsen returns to civilian engineering work in 1976. He never speaks publicly about his role in Project Azorian until CIA declassification in 2010. In a 2012 interview, Nielsen reflected on the mission. "We accomplished something no one thought possible. We built systems that worked at depths no one had operated before. We maintained secrecy while operating in full view. The fact that the submarine broke apart doesn't diminish the achievement. We proved that determined engineering and careful planning can overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. The next time someone says something can't be done, remember that we lifted a submarine from 3 miles down." The intelligence community's assessment of Project Azorian evolved over subsequent decades. Initial disappointment over losing the primary target gradually transformed into recognition that the operation demonstrated remarkable technical achievement and operational security. The mission validated deep ocean recovery capabilities that influenced subsequent intelligence collection methods. The engineering solutions developed for Clementine influenced civilian deep-sea technology, particularly in undersea resource extraction and salvage operations. Soviet response to Project Azorian's revelation included immediate changes to submarine loss protocols. The Soviet Navy instituted new requirements for scuttling charges that would destroy sensitive equipment if vessels sank in accessible waters. Communications procedures were revised under assumption that previous codes might have been compromised. Nuclear weapon designs were reviewed and modified based on presumed American analysis of the recovered torpedoes. The long-term impact on U.S.-Soviet relations was minimal. By 1975, détente-dominated superpower interactions, and Project Azorian was treated as an unfortunate but expected consequence of intelligence competition. Neither side allowed the revelation to derail ongoing arms control negotiations or diplomatic engagement. The operation became another data point in the Cold War's long history of espionage, counter-espionage, and technological competition. Captain Hank Van Kalkar commanded Hughes Glomar Explorer through the recovery operation and subsequent return to port. Van Kalkar, age 52 at mission time, later described the experience as his career's defining moment. "You're holding position in open ocean, conducting operations that would be remarkable even with friendly forces watching. Except you have Soviet vessels 3 miles away, and your entire mission depends on them believing you're doing something completely different." The stress was incredible, but the ship performed perfectly. The crew performed perfectly. Sometimes everything works exactly as designed. The Hughes Glomar Explorer continued operating after Project Azorian, conducting legitimate deep-sea mining research and, according to unconfirmed reports, additional intelligence operations. The ship was eventually sold to private industry and converted for oil exploration drilling. The vessel operated under various owners until retired from service in 2015. Clementine, the capture vehicle, was reportedly stored at a secure facility and later disposed of in an undisclosed manner. The specific engineering details remain classified. K-129's final resting place contains the submarine's forward section, still lying 3 miles beneath the Pacific surface. Soviet and later Russian naval forces attempted additional recovery operations, but achieved no success at that depth. The missile guidance systems, nuclear warheads, and code room that motivated Project Azorian remain entombed in darkness and crushing pressure, perhaps the Cold War's most expensive treasure, still lost at sea. John McNish, the halibut commander who first located K-129, retired from the Navy in 1976 with the rank of captain. McNish received classified commendations for the search operation, but could not discuss his role publicly until 2010. He reflected on the mission's meaning in his final interview before his death in 2017. "Finding the submarine was the easy part. We had good intelligence, good equipment, and unlimited time. The CIA's challenge was infinitely harder. They had to engineer solutions to problems that didn't have precedents, maintain secrecy across hundreds of people and multiple organizations, and execute a plan where any single failure would destroy the entire operation. The fact they succeeded at all, even partially, represents the peak of American technical ambition during the Cold War." The families of K-129's 98 lost crew members never received official notification of the submarine's fate. Soviet authorities classified the loss and provided no details to relatives. When Project Azorian became public in 1975, Soviet media coverage focused on American theft of Soviet property rather than the original disaster. The CIA's filming of the burial ceremony for recovered sailors was not released until 1992, providing the first official confirmation of K-129's loss to Soviet families. The film showed American personnel conducting a dignified Russian Orthodox service, lowering flag-draped bodies into the Pacific while a translator read scripture in Russian. The transformation was complete. What began as Captain Vladimir Kobzar's routine patrol in March 1968 ended with his submarine becoming the target of history's most expensive intelligence operation, his crew members receiving burial from the nation they opposed, and his vessel split between American analysis and eternal ocean darkness. What began as Dale Nielsen's confident engineering calculations in July 1974 ended with partial success, broken submarine sections, and proof that even perfect execution cannot always overcome material failure. What began as Soviet mockery of American deep-sea mining claims ended with grudging recognition that their adversary had reached impossible depths and extracted strategic information from international waters while maintaining cover so complete that Soviet observers never suspected the truth until journalists revealed it. July 4, 1974. Dale Nielsen steadies himself against Glomar Explorer's rail, watching Soviet vessels maintain their observation stations, completely unaware that below 3 miles down, history's most audacious heist is beginning. Within days, Nielsen's confidence will fracture like submarine hull metal under unequal pressure. But in this moment, everything seems possible, and American engineering appears capable of conquering any challenge, even stealing submarines from the ocean floor. What Nielsen didn't know was that the Cold War's greatest technical achievement would also teach its hardest lesson: ambition, resources, and engineering excellence can overcome impossible obstacles, but cannot always deliver complete success. Sometimes the ocean keeps its secrets. Sometimes the prize breaks apart 3 miles down. Sometimes partial victory is the best possible outcome. The story of Project Azorian is the story of what nations attempt when strategic imperatives meet unlimited budgets and extraordinary human capabilities, and what they learn when reality imposes limits even genius cannot overcome.